First and foremost, good morning to each and every one of you. This is a wonderful day. Isn't it, in fact, a wonderful day? Now, before we kick off this presser with regards to the exciting news and a whole slew of folks who are going to share their thoughts and opinions here today, I'd like to welcome our host to the podium, a poet and priest and politician himself, an incredible activist and advocate who has been steadfast in his commitment to this community. He's been very rock solid with regards to his values and principles to bring justice to this community. Let's bring up our host from this incredible parish, Resurrection, Father John Moretta. Father John Moretta.
Thank you, Senator De León. Thank you very much. This is a great start towards the eventual cleanup, as you know, of the several southeast cities polluted by Exide. We will not rest until the fastest and the most thorough cleanup is done with all our homes that are affected by Exide during these years. This will include the interiors, it will include the attics, it will include the parkway, it should include the roofs, the garages, the whole 9 yards, so that the people that live there won't have to worry if their kid is outside playing in the dirt. Every legal means must be brought to assure that all the homes in the projected area will be tested. I want to ask today, why has the DA and why hasn't the city attorney not intervened to press charges against Exide? Do you know what Frisco, Texas, what Muncie, Indiana, what Frankfort, Indiana, what Baton Rouge, Louisiana, what the state of Connecticut have in common with Vernon? They all have plants of Exide that have been abandoned. And their modus operandi is that they just say goodbye to the city, and the people in Frisco for several years now are still fighting to clean up those places. Every place they've done the same thing. They fought and fought until they would get it cleaned up. There are even more sites where Exide has left pollution. But isn't that akin to racketeering? To do a crime and then to go to another state, to go to another city? Isn't that kind of our idea of what racketeering is about, a criminal activity? And finally, I believe that I speak for many members of the environmental justice movement that will never rest until the very agencies that have sworn to protect us, the agencies that, for their charter, are to protect our health, why after violation after violation after violation, they have allowed Exide to continue operating. And so we'll never rest until we find that answer. It's not just for our sakes, it's also for the sake of other communities. This does not happen again in the state of California. May God bless you, and I think it's a great day to celebrate, and I'm grateful for all those that put this together. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Father John Moretta. Now, it has been a long time. It has been a very long time to get to this point. I want to commend Governor Jerry Brown for recognizing the health crisis that thousands of families have endured for far too long. But it mostly has been the dedication and the determination of community organizers and residents that have gotten us to this point. You have rightfully demanded a safe and healthy environment for your families, and you should accept nothing short of that. Your children, our children, deserve to learn in schools and play in parks free of harmful contaminants and toxins. Your families should be able to gather in homes free of arsenic, lead, as well as other industrial waste. Now, the $176 million in cleanup funds is expected to ensure that homes, schools, daycare centers, parks within a 1.7-mile radius of the Exide battery recycling plant be tested. Those that pose the greatest risk of exposure will be cleaned. There is, and let me emphasize and underscore and highlight, there is no safe lead level of lead in the environment for our public health. It has especially a damaging and permanent effect on children's cognitive functions. So therefore, we also urge parents to have health professionals monitor their children very, very closely. Now, the state will aggressively seek reimbursement from Exide, as we know that the polluter, the emitter of these harmful pollutants, shall have to pay once and for all. But this can take, without a doubt, years of litigation. And that's why the time for action is now. This is a watershed moment for all those who have fought valiantly for so many years. All these meetings in this hall, every other week, with our local officials, with our state officials, with federal officials, community-based organizations, young men and women, parents, old, young, and in the middle, everyone collectively coming together. This is a watershed moment for all of those who have fought tirelessly to close down Exide. Now, there is still much work to do, no doubt about it, but this is a very appropriate time to all the activists in this room. Congratulations to all of you, and thank you for your commitment. Congratulations. Now I'm going to say something very briefly, just in Spanish. Ha sido una larga lucha para llegar a este punto. Ha sido la dedicación y la determinación de los organizadores comunitarios y los residentes que nos ha llevado a este punto. Nuestros hijos merecen aprender en las escuelas y jugar en los parques libres de esos contaminantes peligrosos. Sus familias deben poder reunirse en lugares libres de arsénicos, plomo y desecho industrial. Los fondos, más de 176 millones de dólares para la limpieza, para los desechos tóxicos, se espera que garantice que los hogares, escuelas, centro de guarderías, por ejemplo, y los parques del área de 1.7 millones serán examinados. Yo quisiera darle las gracias a todos los activistas a nivel comunitario, a las familias, a la gente de edad avanzada, a los jóvenes, a aquellos que trabajaron en las trincheras desde la madrugada hasta el anochecer, luchando día tras día, semana tras semana, mes tras mes, haciendo todo lo posible para mejorar la condición humana de nuestros residentes aquí en el este de Los Ángeles, Boyle Heights y Maywood, el Southeast de Los Ángeles. Debido a la lucha de cada uno de ustedes, los jóvenes activistas presentes hoy día aquí con nosotros en la audiencia, debido a nuestro padre, Monseñor Moreta, y también a los electos oficiales aquí presentes, hemos logrado algo que es concreto y algo que es fijo. 176 millones de dólares para comenzar la limpieza aquí para las familias trabajadoras. Así, muchas gracias a cada uno de ustedes, los activistas, los jóvenes, las familias trabajadoras de Boyle Heights, por toda su dedicación, su determinación, su enfoque para justicia, para toda nuestra gente marginada aquí en Boyle Heights. With that, we have a long list of folks who deserve an opportunity to share a few words. I'm going to ask the folks who will be speaking, let's stay within our 2-minute time frame, and because we want to make sure all the individuals have an opportunity to speak. Let me bring up here with the Communities CBE, Communities for Better Environment, a fantastic attorney who has been here at the forefront, Gladys Limon. Gladys.
Good morning. The governor's funding plan is a critical first step in finally bringing long-awaited protections to thousands of families that have been poisoned by lead, arsenic, and other substances due to the failure and neglect of the DTSC. We hope that further reparations, these are reparations, we know that justice delayed is justice denied, that further reparations will include health studies and monitoring, and an investigation into how the DTSC allowed this injustice to occur. Today we celebrate the resilience and tenacity of residents who never gave up the struggle to protect their families. One of those many people here is Rosemary Zayas, a youth member and leader of Communities for a Better Environment.
Good morning, everyone. A little short for this. Governor Brown proposed an Exide cleanup plan. Although a good step, a decision that should have been made a long time ago. And speaking of steps, it took me thousands of steps to see Jerry Brown regarding COP21. It took me 10 hours to go to Paris, a different continent, to be there in the same room as someone who represents my home. While Jerry Brown has proposed this plan, it did take him a long time to do so. Exide has been contaminating our homes for over so many years. And, I want to put in a personal note. I have 12 siblings. My 2 older sisters became involved with CBE. Years ago, they were here fighting a power plant. My generation is here. We shut down Exide, and now we're making sure our homes are cleaned up. My younger sisters are asking when they can join CBE, and I'm hoping that one day they won't have to fight off the next polluter. Southeast legislators, yes, these are good steps, but I want to emphasize that community made this happen. We're the ones, we are the ones we made it happen. We just a few hours ago had a workshop that, had community members learn how to do soil testing for lead. We're the ones coming in, we're on the front lines, and although this is a good step, I want to emphasize that community is here. We're the ones who are doing all of these different things, and, we're making sure our homes are cleaned up. We want a just transition, and I really want to emphasize that the folks sitting back here are the ones who went to Sacramento, are the ones who went to testimonies. This is just a few of us, and there's so many more. Thank you.
I want to give a special recognition also towards my left. We have Gideon Krako. Gideon Krako is the chair of the Independent Oversight Committee of DTSC. You're my appointment as the chair of that committee, and I want to say thank you very much for your diligent and good work. So thank you very much, Gideon Krako. Next, we have from the East Yard Committees for Environmental Justice. Let's bring up Mark Lopez.
Thank you, Kevin, and everyone up here. I'm really sick, so I'm going to keep it short because then I have to go sit down. Yesterday, my oldest daughter turned 4 years old. In 2 weeks, my youngest daughter turns 2 years old. And so I want to make sure to emphasize that this whole fight has been for my daughters and for all the babies of the East Side. Because now when we look towards their future, it begins to look healthier. It begins to look safer. That's what this fight has been about. And that's what all of our fights are about. So I'm really happy that we're able to come together, that we're able to build community across East LA and Southeast LA, across community members and elected officials, across agencies, and that we're going to continue to push forward to make sure that the cleanup that our communities deserve happens. That's what we're here for. That's what this has been about, and that's what this will continue to be about. Thank you.
Great job, Mark. Fantastic, and thank you so much for your incredible leadership. Next, we have a resident who's been here every single week, pushing the envelope, moving the ball, and being quite successful. Let's bring up from our community here in Boyle Heights, Terry Cano. Terry.
Hi, I'm here representing the health affected individuals in all of our communities. I have to say that when I first heard about this proposed money, I was shocked, and I was surprised and finally hopeful after decades of having to live in this contamination from Exide and living with the failure of DTSC to protect us from this contamination. I can finally say that I do see the light at the end of the tunnel. This is just a first step in the beginning of the end for our community. Unfortunately, I lost both my parents and will lose my brother soon because of the contamination of Exide. That's not including my friends, family, and neighbors that have also passed away from contamination from coming from Exide. And I just hope that when this cleanup does start, it is quick, it is done properly, and it is done thoroughly, so we don't have to worry about the next generation ending. So many of our residents have had to live with not only the pain and the suffering and the death, but the scars that are left are gonna last a lifetime, having to live with our family members that we weren't ready to lose and watching them suffer as they did. I'm glad this is happening. Again, it's long overdue, and we won't stop fighting until the last house is clean, because that is the humane thing to do. Thank you.
Terry, thank you so very much, and thank you for what you've done for our community here. Next, we have a champion, a civil rights champion, and a champion for environmental justice. We have one of our leaders, in fact, one of our national leaders when it comes to short-lived climate pollutants, or in Paris, France, at the Conference of Parties 21, he introduced the most far-reaching short climate pollutants measure in the history of the United States of America. That is Senator Ricardo Lara. Senator Ricardo Lara.
You know, it's great to be back in Resurrection. Father Moreta, thank you. It's great to see you. Although I was scared I was going to see Sister Viola. And for those of you that know Sister Viola, she did not mess around. You know, we've come a long way from, you know, the one community hearing we had here a while back where it was packed and residents were angry, rightfully so. But, you know, today's victory is really, it was, as it was mentioned before, a victory of the community. It's the folks, the young activists behind us that have kept their elected officials on task, that have moved the needle, that have ensured that the department remains not only accountable, but that our government remains accountable to our residents here in Boyle Heights in Southeast LA. So I'm very proud of the fact that we're here to celebrate this tremendous milestone. There's much more that needs to be done. In the legislature, we're proud that we've worked on legislation over the years to ensure that this does not happen again, that other communities are not subjugated to what Exide has done to our communities here. But this is not enough. We have to ensure that we continue to remain vigilant. We ensure that our governor follows through. And again, congratulations to the leadership of both houses in the Assembly and the Senate for recognizing that this has to be done. I'm very proud to serve with a group of colleagues that understand the need to not only fight for our most vulnerable communities, but to put the resources where the resources are needed. And today is a product of that. So I'm very proud to be here. Look forward to continuing the fight. Es un orgullo para mí estar aquí de nuevo en Resurrection para celebrar no solo esta gran victoria, pero para agradecerle a la comunidad, a los activistas jóvenes que se aseguraron que nuestra comunidad tenga los recursos que se merece para asegurar que nuestros hijos y nuestras comunidades vivan una vida saludable. Y para ellos esta es una sola victoria. Vamos a trabajar arduamente en el Congreso Estatal para asegurar que no solo tengamos los recursos, pero al igual que esto nunca vuelva a pasar otra vez, no solo en nuestras comunidades, pero en ninguna comunidad del estado de California. Gracias.
Thank you very much, Senator Ricardo Lara. Next, we have a young assembly member who represents in the assembly the community of Boyle Heights. And he has been very diligent engaging the community here at Resurrection Church. He's been an incredible legislator in Sacramento with regards to Exide. Let's bring up Assembly Member Miguel Santiago. Miguel Santiago.
Thank you for everybody who has fought with us over the years. And most of you guys know when I first got into office, I sat with many of you, talking to Sal, Terry, Frank. I'm going to mess up because I always leave somebody out, right? Herrera's, Father Moreta's, and the 6-hour meetings that we were having here over and over and over with some of the people who are standing here with us today. And for those who didn't show up to some of those meetings, They also had meetings on Mondays. Every Monday, we met about this. While I was here, then I'm in the legislature, so I can't come most of the time. But nonetheless, we made an attempt. And every single time we knew that this was our top priority in our communities. And we've sat here for a long time. And last year we celebrated the closing of Exide. We celebrated that the state was able to kick in close to $8 million for some of the cleanup at a time when we only knew that 1,000 homes were affected. Then we put an advisory board committee. Right. It wasn't the best and the perfect thing to do in some ways, but what it did do though, is it kept pressure on state departments, DTSC, and it kept everybody informed. Because the chief complaint when we first got into office here was there was no communication, no transparency, and there was no way to talk to any of the departments. But every month they met here, and they traveled around all the southeast cities. And yes, we yelled at each other, and yes, we argued, and some of you yelled at me. I get it, that's what happened. No. But what we did do, because even if you take a look at the $176 million, a lot of those ideas and a lot of our complaints will be incorporated, from local jobs to the way we route the trucks and all the other things that we had talked about at the time, to a technical advisor who translated some of the dense materials, if you guys remember what DTSC was giving us, into what it really actually meant. And we continue to work. At the beginning of the year, after long conversations with Father Moreta and some of you guys, we took even bolder action. We wrote a letter to the DA and engaged them to start participating in this. If you recall, when we met at La Parrilla, and we decided that there was a route we were going to take. We were going to go to the DA. We were going to go to the AG. And the AG is in process, but we did go to the DA, and we had a good conversation, which we reported back to many of you. We said we were going to do an audit, and that's moving forward. That will be presented in the Assembly Joint Audit Committee over the next couple of months. We also talked about hearings. We did one in Sacramento, and some of us here participated, and some of you drove up. Supervisor Solis was there and helped us out with that, and then we did a press conference there. And we also committed to one in the district so that we would keep up the pressure and we would continue to fight to ensure that our neighborhoods and our communities are absolutely clean. Look, this fight is personal to me. It's personal because of the long-term relationships that we've built. It's personal because of our healthcare system, our healthcare that we currently face in these communities. And it's personal because I live here. And I'm raising a kid. Most of you guys know when we did the big celebration here, because Exide had finally closed, it was my little kid who was running around who tripped and turned off the microphone. And then Father Moreta gave us the stink eye at the Mass. Because he was But these fights are personal. I've got family here. And we're not going to stop fighting until we ensure that it's clean, that our neighborhoods are clean, and we ensure that we take care of our community's health care. And at the end of the day, look, we're giving, the state's going to kick in close to $180 million. But we're also going to ensure that we hold Exide accountable. Y al finalmente vamos a seguir luchando para asegurar que Exide sea responsable por los crímenes que ha hecho aquí en nuestra comunidad y por destruir nuestro buen ambiente, y vamos a seguir luchando para mejorar nuestra comunidad, y agradezco mucho para toda la gente aquí que ha luchado con nosotros sobre los años. Muchas gracias y seguimos luchando.
Now, I want to make sure that I ask all of our elected officials, irrespective of the rank, what level of government they're in. Let's keep it our comments short, so we can make sure everyone gets to participate. Next, we have just from the southeast of us, just down the road, we have a new young assembly member who's going to be, along with member Jimmy Gomez and Miguel Santiago on the assembly side, a big champion for environmental justice causes. Let's bring up Assemblywoman Cristina Garcia.
Voy a ser breve. Voy a darle gracias a la comunidad que siempre ha seguido luchando antes de que llegáramos nosotros. Esto no sería posible sin ellos. Muchas gracias. I want to start off by thanking the community for the work they've been doing. They've been doing it long before I got here, and I'm a beneficiary of their work out here. I take this personally too. I grew up in the Southeast. I've been breathing this air all my life, and I worry not just about the health of myself, my family, but all my neighbors in my backyard. And it's exciting to finally be able to come home and say we are doing something now. It's not going to take 30 more years. And so I worry about that every week when I come home. How do I look my neighbors in the face and tell them, hold on, wait a little bit longer? How do I come home and tell myself that every day when I have to come back to the Southeast and breathe this air on a regular basis? This is just a down payment, not just a down payment in funding, but I think a down payment in our commitment from all the legislators here of the work that we need to continue to do to make sure our communities are clean, not just from Exide contamination, but from all the other contamination that we have here, because the reality is that we have a lot of polluters out here. So I hope with Exide we're setting precedent about the work we're going to continue to do to make sure we go after everybody. But as we go after them, we guarantee that we have mechanisms to fund not just the first step of Exide, but everything else that's going to be needed. Assemblymember Santiago, our Speaker-elect Anthony Rendon, our Assemblymember Jimmy Gomez, we're working on legislation to figure out how we could create a revolving door to make sure we clean up lead contamination beyond Exide, which is one of the strongest and worst pollutants in our state, across the whole state. And so I want to thank everyone again for being here, and my commitment to continue to fight, my commitment to tell my community that we matter. I think what you're hearing today from all of us is that we heard the message loud and clear, and we made sure the governor heard it. We matter, and we're not going to wait any longer to make sure we get our piece of the pie. Thank you.
Assemblywoman Garcia, I think that's a lovely hashtag we matter. Like, I think we do, you know. Next we have also one of the new Assembly members who's really dedicated and focused to environmental justice. Will have a very exciting career in dealing with the disproportionate impact of both carbon and other criteria pollutants impacting communities, particularly communities of color. That is Assembly Member Jimmy Gomez. Assembly Member Jimmy Gomez.
Thank you so much. I just want to say this is a big win for the community. I would always say that elected officials come and go, but the community remains. And it was your fight over 30 years that really led us to this point. One thing that is unfortunate, and we've got to acknowledge it, is that the Porter Ranch gas leak shined a light on the fact that we have two Californias. One that is treated with the utmost respect and expediency, and one that is often neglected. So we have to fight to make sure that we don't neglect the areas that can least at sometimes defend themselves. So we need to make sure that we keep pushing this forward. So I commend Governor Brown for the $176 million to say that environmental fairness and equity is a fundamental value, especially on the east side of Los Angeles. So, but we have to move forward, and we have to make sure that future Exides don't happen, and then if they do happen, they don't wait for 30 years. That's why I introduced Assembly Bill 1787, which is the Environmental Protection Equity Act, and that will put communities like the east side of LA, southeast LA, to the head of the line when it comes to responses from the state government. So this is a first step, and I want to thank Kevin De Leon for supporting it in the future. He hasn't yet, but I know he will support it in the future. And in the end, we also have to remember that it's everyone speaking with one voice. I noticed in the last month, it was Kevin De Leon and Miguel Santiago, Macara Lara, myself, Hilda Solis, Javier Becerra, Cristina Garcia, and Councilmember Weezer all started speaking up, and it became kind of this echo chamber that couldn't be denied. And we have to recognize that power, because if we speak with one voice, we can get it done. Thank you so much.
Very, very well said, Assembly Member Jimmy Gomez, and thank you very much for publicly locking me in. Thank you.
He did that to me once.
Thank you. Next, we have a wonderful leader. He's our leader at the national level. He is the highest-ranking Latino in the U.S. Congress. He is my congressman, and he's done a fabulous job. We just saw each other just last weekend on the presidential campaign trail. on Saturday. Again, he's our leader at the national level in Washington, D.C. Let's bring up Congressman Javier Becerra.
So it's only fitting we're here, Monsignor, at Resurrection Church. How many issues have people said, you're done, you can't win, and you just fight, and you resurrect them, and you win. And so, before you leave, make sure you rub elbows with Monsignor Moretta and get your blessing for the day. Take her to the casinos, yeah, right. I don't think so. It's important. What Assemblyman Gomez just said, I think, is absolutely true. We who have been elected have an opportunity to fight for the people, but it's all the folks that aren't wearing the formal attire. The folks back here and the folks that are here that deserve so much of the credit. I can remember 30 years ago, it was some of the same people who were here who fought against the prison in East Los Angeles. It wasn't that long ago. And then after that, we had a fight against the construction of a waste incineration plant in this neighborhood as well. And folks had to rise up again. And so this is not new, but it is great. And here I think it's important to thank our state leaders, the senators, the assembly members. All of us have a role. I was working with EPA to try to get the state to move. But you've got to give credit to the state legislators, our legislators, because they're the ones that had to make it happen with DTSC. They're the ones that had to make it happen with the governor. But for our leaders at the state level, it would not happen. And so I am thrilled to be considered a colleague and a friend of these men and women who serve us. But I think it's even better to say that I'm a member of this community as well. And it's the people who don't have to wear the uniform who do the hardest work. Cada uno de nosotros tenemos oportunidad de poner nuestro granita de arena. Aquí en Bow Heights, en East LA, en la comunidad de Los Ángeles, mucha gente ha tenido que poner muchos granitos de arena. A veces se nota. Este día se nota. Y ahora el gobernador está poniendo también su granita de arena. Así que en esto avanzamos, pero como yo sé que el padre Morera sabe muy bien, siempre tenemos que surgir. We got to resurrect, because some people think we're dead, and we just got to remind them, we are alive and kicking, and we will win. Thank you very much for everything that's being done.
Resurrection Church, Phoenix, rising from the ashes. Next, we have a wonderful leader, our former state senator, former congresswoman, former secretary, our leader at a national level for labor issues, our Secretary of Labor. We had a wonderful opportunity to work together in Washington, D.C. on issues of retirement security, providing a modicum of dignity and respect to our senior citizens and to all people of working families throughout the nation, but in particular here in California. She is our wonderful leader here at the County Board of Supervisors. And I want to underscore, because I like what Javier just said a few moments ago, when we work in concert with each other, state, local, county, federal level, we can do amazing things together. And with that, let me bring up our County Board Supervisor, Supervisor Hilda Solis.
Qué honor para mí hoy día saber que nosotros vemos una victoria y es de parte de la comunidad, de las personas aquí, los que están trabajando y las familias que han sufrido bastante. Me recuerdo a conocer la familia Vallejo, Amalia Vallejo, que tiene 6 niños. El último niño de 4 años tiene muchas deshabilidades. Y sabemos el afecto del plomo, porque si usted conoce la familia, así dentro de sus ojos el corazón que está molestado. Y eso ha pasado aquí tantos años, más que 30 años, y eso ya no debe de serse. Y tenemos que averiguar y hacer investigaciones para saber por qué pasó eso. Yo estoy aquí la primer año trabajando en esta posición, pero lo que me movió a mí fue los voces de la comunidad, de los jóvenes, de los representantes aquí, porque eso, lo que ha pasado aquí no es justo y tenemos que cambiarlo. Y le quiero dar las gracias al gobernador, porque también cuando yo oí que iba a dar estos fondos, le llamé y le dije, gracias Señor, ya era tiempo, pero también le quiero invitar acá, para que él conoce también como nosotros las familias. Y me dijo que ojalá que sí. I just want to say it's really an empowering day for us because the community spoke. And I'm here only 1 year in my position, but I know what it means to see injustice and to meet a family like the Vallejo family and Anthony Gutierrez. When you see these families, you know what lead poisoning does. It has a terrible, devastating effect. Unlike other kinds of toxics that maybe you could smell like in other parts of Porter Ranch. But lead poisoning can cause cancer, developmental disabilities, harm to your liver, to your kidneys, to your spine, to your brain. We have children, we have families, members that we have lost, people that we know. Now it's going to stop. I thank the governor for what he did, but I know that there's still more to do. And we have to find out how it was that for 33 years, this permit that was supposed to be temporary was allowed to go on. That's the injustice, because it can't happen again. I want to say how proud I am to be here with our legislators and with our community representatives and all of you, because you're the ones that made the difference. May God bless you for your strength and for the honor that you give us and the privilege to serve you. Thank you very much.
Nicely said, Senator Hilda Solis. Because once a senator, always a senator. Yeah. Well, secretary's fine, but senator's better. Yeah. So with that, we have our city council member who represents Boyle Heights and has done so in a very diligent manner. I can remember back in 2014, 2 years ago, on the steps of Resurrection Church, when we had one of many press conferences denouncing Exide and calling for the shutdown of Exide and for dollars to remediate the lead emissions here in Boyle Heights and East LA and elsewhere. He has been diligent from day one, working together. And again, just to underscore, state, county, federal, local government working in concert with each other, leveraging the power that we possess at this moment to extract these resources that are necessary for our community. With that, I bring up our council member, Mr. Jose Huizar. Jose.
Thank you very much, Senator, and thank you for your leadership and not only leading us forward throughout the state and the world on environmental issues, but never forgetting that here at home we have many environmental issues that we continue to battle. And today is about thanking the community residents, thanking about the organizations who brought this to light. It's about thanking those people who are willing to step forward and show the suffering that was happening in this community for many, many years. It's about the community stepping forward and saying 30 years does not constitute temporary when this facility continued to get a temporary permit for over 30 years and allowed to continue to kill people. Terry Cano and others, the governor, our elected officials, heard you loud and clear. The suffering must stop. The contamination that is occurring is not immediate, it's long term. We don't know to this day how many more families have been impacted. And so today we thank our state elected leaders, our community members, our governor for listening. A couple of weeks ago we introduced legislation at the city level to see what legal actions the city had against, believe it or not, our state agency for their negligence. We asked, was anybody listening? Well, the governor here and our state representatives are listening. Thank you so much. But as we move forward, and many have said it here already, we need to see what's ahead. We need to see a timeline. We need to get the sense of urgency that this is. We need some immediate timelines in place so that we know when we're going to expedite and hurry up this cleanup. And to the DTSC, we say this: you have one more chance to prove that you are looking out in the best interest of Californians. You have the resources now, and we should ask if you need more resources within your agency to implement these funding sources to clean up. You have another opportunity to prove yourself that in fact you are doing the people's job. Thank you very much.
Okay, with that, we have an opportunity for a few minutes for any Q&A. NBC?
Yes, NBC. Senator, cast against the backdrop of Flint, Michigan, and locally Porter Ranch, the big question that keeps coming up here is why? Why so long? 30 years plus to get the attention first and then the action. What does this tell you about power and influence in a community like this one versus, for instance, Porter Ranch, where people are wealthier and seem to have a louder voice at the government level?
Well, I think that it'd take another 30 years to explain the reason why there's been so much neglect. Let's put this in context, because we have a lot of community activists here, CBE, ECR, and other folks. Environmental justice is about bringing equity to communities of color, communities at a lower economic strata that have suffered for far too long due to emissions of greenhouse gases, carbon, CO2, other criteria pollutants, whether it's NOx, SOx, particulate matter 2.5, or in this case with regards to Exide, down the road, arsenic and lead. Obviously, we don't have battery recycling plants like Exide in Pacific Palisades, or Brentwood, or Santa Monica, or Malibu, or South Pasadena, or San Marino. They are located in certain places due to decisions that are made by local planning agencies. People inject what their criteria is. Should they place a battery recycling plant or a refinery plant in these neighborhoods or those neighborhoods? And these are the results. It's called environmental justice for a reason, because sometimes folks view this through the lens, a prism of ethnicity, race, as well as social income level. But that's why I'm really excited to work with these outstanding legislators, incredible, diligent community activists, to move forward once and for all to make sure that this never ever happens again. It's that clear.
Why does Porter Ranch get a response like within weeks of the first whiff of gas, whereas these folks?
It's a little different. There's a contrast with regards to what's happening there, because there's no money that has been appropriated from the state. It's highly unlikely there will be money appropriated from the state of California, because in this case you have an investor-owned utility, an IOU, which is Sempra Energy, more specifically the gas company. So there is apples and oranges. I think at the level of the response, I think there is some truth to that. Folks at a higher economic strata may get more attention, and this is a case in point. That's why it's incumbent on all of us as elected officials that represent our family members, our community members, to fight against the injustice. Be mindful about one thing right now. You may have state legislators here today, but as state legislators, we don't represent the executive branch of state government. It's just like if Javier Becerra represented EPA or other agencies or so forth, or Jose Huizar, or the county is a different mix because it's a hybrid of executive and legislative kind of sort of combined, if you will. But we are the representatives of our people banging the door, and we have banged the door, and we actually have kicked the door down to secure the $176 million. Next question.
Señor de León, este es español, lo mismo que preguntó el señor Gordon, pero aclarando un poquito, creo que está muy claro que hay dos Californias, la California de Porter Ranch y la California de aquí, de esta ciudad de los hispanos. ¿No?
Bueno, voy a ser muy breve, pero para enfatizar y subrayar la pregunta del reportero de NBC, sin lugar a dudas, los más marginados, los más vulnerables, aquellos que son víctimas de alto índice alarmante y peligroso de carbono, de plomo y otros tipos de contaminantes peligrosos, sin lugar a dudas, a lo largo ancho del estado de California, es gente marginada, es gente de familia trabajadora, es gente latina emigrante, es gente de color, minorías afroamericanos. Por eso los activistas, los jovenazos, los super jovenazos presentes hoy día, alzando sus voces, trabajando colectivamente con los electos oficiales aquí presentes a nivel estatal, federal y local también, una sola voz en lucha, en defensa del pueblo más desprotegido aquí en el este de Los Ángeles, en Boyle Heights, y también en áreas rurales como el Valle Central, también donde hay combustibles fósiles, ¿no?, que se está emitiendo, que nuestros hijos respirando día tras día en sus pulmones, estos contaminantes peligrosos. Estamos trabajando de cerca, colectivamente, para parar estas injusticias hoy día.
Senador, se reconoce la ayuda, se reconocen los millones que da el gobernador, pero ¿cuál es el siguiente paso? Hay que ir a nivel nacional, necesitamos pedir más ayuda, dieron 100 y tantos.
Bueno, para pedir más dinero, claro que sí, pues a nivel local, la ciudad o el condado, también a nivel federal.
Dimos $2 millones de parte del condado.
2 millones, y vamos a pedir más, ¿no? Sin lugar a dudas, ¿no? A nivel federal, local, del condado, colectivamente, vamos a estar trabajando de cerca. El proceso va a ser lo siguiente. Hace corto plazo tenemos que pasar una medida que requiere 2/3 para el efecto inmediato. Eso requiere el apoyo de los republicanos también. Tenemos que bregar con los republicanos. Si no recibimos el apoyo de los republicanos, la ley entrará en vigor el 1 de enero del año 2017. Pero queremos los fondos hoy día, no mañana, y por eso vamos a promover una medida. Puede ser una medida o puede ser a través del presupuesto, pero se requiere 2/3 apoyo. Pues, sin lugar a dudas, los demócratas de ambas cámaras, la Cámara Alta y la Cámara Baja, el Senado y la Asamblea, apoyarán esta medida. Tenemos que bregar con los republicanos para la urgencia lo más pronto posible.
Kevin, en relación a la partida, ¿también va a ser asignada para las personas o para esa comunidad que fue afectada en cuanto a la salud?
Así es, así es. Sí. Y yo creo que esa es la última pregunta. Bueno, dos más, y pues aquellos que quieren, gustan entrevistas también, aquí hay personas individuales también.
Bueno,
sí, señorita.
Entonces sería el Senado el que lleve el siguiente paso, ¿se va a crear un comité especial o cómo funcionará eso?
No, el comité especial no, ya hemos bregado sobre los detalles, tenemos que bregar sobre los detalles, la política pública sobre los detalles, pero no se requiere más comisiones y más comisiones y más comisiones y más audiencias. La audiencia sería sobre la política pública, el contexto, el contenido y los detalles de la propuesta. Tenemos que bregar, por ejemplo, no las cantidades, cómo, cuándo, dónde, los plazos, cuánto vamos a otorgar hacia corto, medio y largo plazo, porque a la misma vez existe una demanda jurídica en contra Exide, porque el dinero viene del presupuesto del estado de California. Let me underscore something that's very quick, because ultimately the main polluter has to pay, which is Exide. They have to pay more than $176 million. But we can get tied up in litigation for years and years and years. But the community demands remediation, not tomorrow, but today. Today. And that's why we're taking money from the general fund. It comes from the general fund at the end of the day. We will fight in court, obviously, with repayment. You have creditors who are lining up right now, if you will, whether it's banks and other types of institutions, because they have filed bankruptcy, they're looking for that type of protection. We ultimately will have to secure the money back from Exide. But it's first and foremost Exide who's responsible for the emissions of these harmful pollutants that our children have breathed into their lungs and have touched. So with that, it will be a legislative process that we work collectively, the Senate as well as the Assembly, to work out the details, which we will have to work out, the time frames, when, cuándo, cómo, etcétera, etcétera. Así, bueno, la última, ¿no?
This impacted a predominantly Latino community, but here on the room, these are all Latino leaders and all in different high positions. Why did it take so long, especially with these representatives, this community, why did it take so long for you guys to come together?
Why did it take so long for us to come together? Today, it's a day of celebration. The day that we have what we didn't have yesterday, which was $176 million. It is an opportunity because irrespective of ethnicity at any political level right now, to take on the establishment institutions is not that easy. You can't snap a finger. If you could snap a finger, it would have been done with all the powerful politicians. We had Gloria Molina here for 25 years as a county board of supervisor. We could ask very clearly, why did it take so long? We had so many other council officials and mayors and so forth. The thing is today is we come together in celebration for the $176 million that we did not have last week due to everyone here collectively who have really pushed the ball. With that, thank you very much, everybody.